One greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. I'd just like to talk to you guys for a brief moment about a documentary that I watched on Netflix on Monday. It was released on September 30th of this year, and it is called American Murder, The Family Next Door. And it is the Watts murders are revisited in this devastating Netflix documentary about marriage, social media, and violence against women. Christopher Watts is the main character in this documentary. He's the husband, married to a woman by the name of Shanann, and they both had two small children, two small girls that were 3 and 4. Well, this documentary on Netflix spins basically with her text messaging to her husband and her friend, and you will get to see her personal feelings about her marriage, because she's texting her husband and she's also texting her girlfriend to give her the 411 of what's going on in her marriage. And it was a rocky marriage, obviously. But I think what I found baffling in watching the text messages, watching the body cam video from the police when they go in to look in the home, because a friend and her husband were concerned because she hadn't heard from her. So she gets to go into the house with the cops, and the husband is also there, and you get to see the layout of the home, a very nice, fine home in Colorado, Frederick, Colorado. You get to see the rooms, the bedrooms, everything, the children's room, and you get to get a glimpse of how, the taste of the lady, how she was nice, the home was nicely decorated, very simple, nothing elaborate. The reactions from the husband, you get to see his reaction. The police asking him questions, police asking the friends questions. So this is what you see, is body cam video of them walking around this house, giving their commentary, who last spoke to her, things of that nature. But I think what baffled me the most about this documentary is how calm the husband was in his text messages to his wife, because during this documentary you will find out that he was having an affair with another young lady. You will see his reactions in the text messages to his wife when she's asking him what's wrong, why he hasn't called her, when she had took the kids out of town to North Carolina to visit her family. You will get to see his reaction, and he was very calm in his demeanor. The wife is questioning their relationship, if he still loves her, why he's not attracted to her, why they're not having sex. All that is revealed in the text messages. It's a very interesting documentary because you rarely see that in documentaries where they're typing out the person's text onto the screen. So it's almost as if the dead person is alive, typing out what they're feeling at that time. And it's mesmerizing. It really is mesmerizing. It's riveting because she is no longer alive. Her children are no longer alive. But you get to see what she was feeling about herself, her kids, the fact that she had been diagnosed with lupus, how they met, the marriage itself, how he was everything to her, how she felt like she was, this better person in meeting him and marrying him. You get to see all that in her text messaging, her Facebook posts. Yes, those are also revealed. You get to see the layout and the fallout of a marriage that was not genuine. It may appear at some point, but it is revealed that it wasn't shortly after. Now, they don't give a timeline, which I hate, because I'm always wondering when a person says, shortly after the marriage, it went downhill. Well, what happened? Day 1, day 5, 2 months in, 2 years in? You're wondering all that. But this man was mild-mannered. He was mild-mannered, and that's what bothered me the most, because I always ask myself, when a woman is in a relationship and she ends up murdered by her boyfriend, husband, ex-husband, what was the demeanor of the person who murdered her? So if you were talking to someone and you're ranting and raving and cussing and fussing and going off, and they only reply in a soft tone, I do love you, I care about you, I do miss you, I apologize, why didn't answer the phone, blah, 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 I'll do better, are you going to also think that's the same person that's going to murder you when you come home from a business trip? Because that is what happened. This man checked out his marriage, and you will see that in this documentary. You also see the commentary from the neighbor next door who, day 1, said he was acting fidgety, that he never talked, that he was babbling a lot. But the cop said, well, that could be because he's nervous. He doesn't know anything. He's wondering where his wife is. So we're not going to jump to any conclusions. But what I always tell you is you go with your gut instinct, and that's exactly what the neighbor went with. When he made that comment that he's acting fidgety, he's pacing back and forth, he's rocking back and forth, he's like he never acts like this. He never behaves like this. The man never says two words. So you see, it was laid out day one of his demeanor. And who knows you better than the people who are around you and talk to you? So that was sign number one. Sign number two is that her purse was left in the house. Sign number three is that he said the blankies were missing. And the children never went anywhere without their blankies. So now let's ask ourselves, why would a woman walk out of her home with her two children, with their blankies, but she didn't take her purse? I'll wait. Now, if she was taking a walk down the street, went to a neighbor's, she wouldn't need her purse. Where was her car? I never heard a mention of a car, but there was a great truck that was seen parked a block or so down, and one neighbor was suspicious of the truck, but she said, oh, I know his truck. This was a smaller great truck. Well, we found out later in the documentary, his truck was parked a little ways down from his house. Why? Same neighbor that made the comment about him acting fidgety said he thought it was suspicious that he backed his truck up on that fateful night, and he never backed his car up to the garage door. Why would he be doing that? But what did I tell you? Who knows you better than the people who are around you, who see you, who talk to you? And so on that fateful night, the night that the lady comes in from out of town from a business trip, dropped off by her friend and coworker, it's the same night that his truck is backed up to the garage, and you can't see anything. You can't see him loading anything. But we later find out in the said documentary when he finally decides to confess to the murder, because he kind of hopscotched around it, failed a lie detector test. They kept hammering him to tell the truth. He ended up talking to his father. First he put the blame on the wife that she had smothered the children, but then eventually he told the truth that he did kill his wife, he did kill his children, and he did back that truck up to that driveway, garage, put the wife inside on the floor. The children questioned why. Well, the police asked him, did the children question him about mommy there? And he just said, she's okay or whatever. He took them near his job site. He dropped the children off into an oil tank, which you had to walk up some stairs to drop them down inside this oil tank, and he buried the mother. And all this was because he did not have the decency to tell her that he was no longer happy, that he had another woman in his life which he had suspected, and he wanted out of his marriage. And you see, the thing about marriage is that, and I've never been married, but just from watching people, these type of stories, people I've known who are married, it takes two people to make it work. And it definitely would take one to shut it down. So if you have two people who are not willing to work, one not willing to work, it's not going to work. And if you have no honesty, it is not going to work. And this man didn't have the decency to be honest, to say, I'm no longer in love with you. I'm not cut out to be a father. I'm not cut out to be a husband. He did not do that. And that is the problem with most relationships, marriages especially. People do not want to admit that they can't do the job that they signed up. And you will also see him in a video talking about marriage and sticking it out and what it takes to keep a marriage going. And at this time, he's a little bit heavier in that said video. And yes, at one time he was a heavier person. He lost weight. And I started to wonder to myself, did he start to get attention from the ladies? Did he start feeling himself? Or as the old folks used to say, start smelling his own tail? You understand what I'm saying? Did he get the big head and say, I'm not bad looking at all. I'm looking good? Ladies may have started making remarks because he had built himself up, muscular. So he was no longer the same guy that he was when he dated and married his wife. And maybe somewhere down the line, Mr. Watts decided he no longer wanted to be a husband. He no longer wanted to be a father. Because you see, you're not going to know what the job entails until you get in the job. And we all know that what you sign up for may not be what you actually want down the line. And I think that is what happened. Is that this man, his image changed. He started smelling his own tail. He started looking outside the marriage. And instead of him either trying to make it work or fold, he found him another woman. And he decided to get rid of his family to be with this woman. They interviewed the said lady. She had no knowledge of a plan to murder his family, but she did know that he was married, and she did continue to date him knowing that he was married, but she was leery about getting into a relationship with a man who had children because he had made it known that he and his wife separated. She also admitted to the cops that she realized he was a liar, and she gave him the ultimatum. I will not talk to you until your family reappears, because she didn't know everything until she saw it on the news. So imagine you have been sleeping and slumbering with a man, sharing your innermost secrets with a man, and then you start to find out things that you did not know on national news, local news. And then you start to wonder, who in the hell have I been sleeping with? But see, it's the old adage that you shouldn't have been messing with the married man in the first place. But we as people are flawed, and we do what we want to do. But they also concluded she had no knowledge of the murders. She was not complicit in the murders. She just made a terrible mistake by dating a married man who was a liar and also a murderer. You will see in this documentary the ins and outs of this relationship. You will come to your own conclusion what you think broke up the marriage. Was it his family because they did not get along with his wife, his mother, and his sister? Was that what made this man decide he no longer wanted to be in a marriage with his wife? It was said that she was kind of bossy. He's opposite. He's more quiet, mild-mannered. Was her personality too dominant for him? What was it? Was it the relationship that his family had with her? The fact that the children had a birthday party in North Carolina and his family didn't attend because there was some words spoken about his mother feeding the child some type of food and the child broke out and had an allergy. What was the straw that broke the camel's back in this marriage? Was it doomed from day one, but he stayed? Did he make children with her one by one and still realize his marriage isn't working, but still kept making babies with her? When was the clue that the marriage was not for him? And as I say, you will see in her Facebook post and in her text messages to him and her friend that she wanted her marriage to work, that she had struggled with lupus, and that she was trying to be the best person she could be, and she wanted her husband and her children. She wanted her family. And we all know that in certain situations, such as these stories, people will side with whom they like. And people will say, she drove him to do it. Well, that's an ugly thing to say, no matter what her personality is. Because the adult thing to do, the mature thing to do, is to just tell your spouse that it's no longer working. And let her know, I will continue to provide for the children, but you and I can no longer be together. Murdering her and the kids is a cop-out. It's a cop-out. Because I believe in the beginning of that marriage, he knew it wasn't for him and it was not working, whether it was her temperament, or maybe he wasn't the type of guy who could man up and stand up to responsibility or speak for himself, because usually quiet people will not speak up for themselves. So who's to say he wasn't that guy? He wasn't strong enough for her personality. You will never know, because one person is dead, and they can't speak for themselves, and that is the wife. But he had no right to kill her, no matter what type of woman she was. No matter if she was feisty, bossy, she deserved life, and it wasn't his right to take her life. And that is what her mother said to him in the courtroom when the family was able to give their final statements in the court before the verdict was given by the judge. It is a sad tale, because it goes to show you do not know people. That this guy, who seemed like an all-around nice guy, married this girl, moved out west to Colorado to have a life with her. Somewhere down the line, the marriage went downhill, and he never had the guts to tell her that the marriage was not working. He played the role and nodded his head and in agreement, but all along he was not a happy camper, and he took the coward's way out by finding another woman to slumber with, and then he snuffed out his wife and 2 small children for no damn reason. And there is no reason to kill someone because you are no longer happy and you no longer want to bear the responsibility for providing for them. It was stated in this documentary that he put his house up for sale day 1 when she went missing. So that shows you the character of this man, that he had already put his house up for sale once the wife went missing, and it was known that she was missing in the community. What type of man puts his house up for sale? You see, he was preparing for a life with this other woman. But I think anyone in their right mind would have said, where is the wife and the children? Why would she take her children away from the father? Why is she not keeping contact with even her own family? Let's just say that. Had they not found her buried in that dirt near those oil tanks and the children found in the oil tank, wouldn't that woman say to herself, how has this woman fallen off the face of the earth and has children and family? You would have to wonder that. And you couldn't be that blindly in love to think a mother who loved her children, loved her family, would walk away from a marriage, not get a divorce, and stop all contact with the said father and her own family. But as we've seen in these storylines, some people are so obsessed and enamored with people, they will believe anything that they tell them, and they will foolishly follow in behind them, knowing that something is not right with this person and that they possibly killed the said person or people. I want you all to check out this story on Netflix, this documentary. It is a riveting story. It is called American Murder, The Family Next Door. It is a sad story of a man, Christopher Watts, who was married to this lady, Shanann, 2 small children, and he one day decided to kill his family. And the sickening part is he held alive for, 2 days, and then he was arrested. So he didn't even get to go off because they knew day 1, the detectives, the agents rather, that he murdered these people because he did fail a lie detector test, and they just knew. Sad tragedy. Very sad tragedy. American Murder, Family Next Door, now showing on Netflix. Please tune in. It is a very riveting story, and it will give you something to ponder on and something to think about. That you really don't know people. That your friend isn't your friend. Your family isn't your family. Your spouse isn't your spouse. And your parent is not your parent. Your neighbor is not your neighbor. Because you do not know people. And this is one of those sad, sad stories to show you that the people that you take up with, marry, laugh, share memories, conversations, you don't have an idea who the hell you've been talking to. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop your comments below. Thanks for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. You all mask up out there. Stay safe. Have a prosperous week. The Queen will be back with another video. I want to thank you all for following in and tuning in. And I will be back with another video. There's something I'd like to share with you all, and something that's been on my mind for a couple of months. And I have been debating if I want to talk about the said situation or not. But I feel like I have nothing to lose by being truthful, because sometimes, as they say, the truth will set you free. I will be back with a personal testimony of something that I've been pondering with and on, and I'm going to share it with you all. I'm going to share it with the world. And whatever comes from this testimony will come from it. I really don't even care at this point, but I think it's time I unburden myself and let you all know what's been going on with me here in the High 10. Thank you all for watching. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Bye-bye.